Okay, so I just got back from theaters from seeing Sonic 3, the third installment of the Sonic the Hedgehog movie franchise, and I want to give my thoughts on the movie in general. There will be some spoilers, I'm just kind of throwing that out there. So if you haven't seen the movie already, for some of the things I want to talk about will be spoiler. So I don't want to ruin it for you. So if you haven't seen it, go see the movie, then come back. So Sonic 3, I think the movie did some things right, and I think the movie did some things very, very wrong. I think the first 10 to 15 minutes of the movie was solid, and I think the last 15 minutes of the movie solid. Unfortunately, everything in between, I kind of could have went without all of it, to be honest with you. I left the theater extremely disappointed with this movie. Again, I thought the action scenes and the stuff set up in the first 15 minutes of this movie was done very, very well. And I thought the last 15 minutes of the movie was very, very, good. Like, it was done very well. I'm like, man, why couldn't this be the whole movie? Like, I looked at the last 15 minutes of the movie, and I was like, oh, this is great. Why wasn't this the whole movie? The movie did do some things well, like eliminating a lot of the human characters that we don't care about. Like, they're mostly gone through this entire movie. Like, maybe you might have like 5 to 10 minutes with these characters, with the human characters, maybe. That's it. Like, they're very, very limited, which is a good thing, which is a positive thing, which is something that I wanted. But unfortunately, the movie is just kind of like, here's the thing. You can't really get the moments of the drama and the tension that the movie is trying to show you, because they automatically jump into like a comedic scene. Like, this movie has some very, very heavy themes. If you are a fan of the Sonic the Hedgehog franchise, the stuff that goes on with Shadow and Maria is very, very heavy, and it's very, very dark, and they kind of just they hit on it, but they don't really hit on it. It's like, hey, we're gonna talk about it, we're gonna show you some of it, but you don't really get the gravity of the situation that it actually is in the video games and some of the other material out there. I thought Jim Carrey as Robotnik was horrendous in this movie. Someone who was the best part of the first and second film, he was horrendous in this movie. Here's the reason why Jim Carrey was so bad in this movie. One, he comes back and he does his Jim Carrey-ness, which we like, right? Like, he was a standout as Robotnik in Sonic 1 and Sonic 2. But where it really kind of falls apart is there's two of them this time. And it's like, it gets annoying at certain points, right? Jim Carrey, like, him doing his stick for Sonic 1 and Sonic 2 is great because he's doing his thing and it's funny and it's comic relief. But when you take that and then you double it, because he's playing two different characters. He's playing Robotnik and Grandpa Robotnik. So when you're getting double of that and they're playing off each other, and for some weird reason he's kind of trying to one up each other. He's trying to one up himself, but we're getting double the Jim Carrey Robotnikness. It gets to a point where it's actually hard to sit through the movie. Like, it's horrendous. Like, there's a dancing scene that he's dancing with himself, like the grandpa version of him. So he's dancing with himself, doing this like they're in this laser trap, and he's got this suit on, and they're doing like this stupid dance number. Just it really comes down to, it's just hard to watch because Jim Carrey is overbearing in this movie. He's a standout in the first two films. He's freaking amazing in the first two films, but he's taking that stick and now we're doubling it, and it gets to the point where it's just like, I couldn't wait for the movie to be over. And it's just not Jim Carrey that I found unbearable in this movie. There's a lot of times in this movie, like I mentioned a few seconds ago, where they start to hit on some very deep and dark themes of the movie just so we can hit a comedy scene that completely negates anything that's actually going on. There's a scene in this movie that something happens and Sonic is outraged. He's going out for blood. He wants to go out and take out Robotnik, take out Shadow, take out Grandpa. Like, he wants to take out everybody. In order to do this, he wants the Chaos Emerald. He wants the Master Emerald, so he becomes supersonic, so he can just go out there and just wipe them out and get his revenge. And Knuckles confronts him. He's like, no, I'm the guardian of this Chaos Emerald. You said we weren't going to use this anymore. And this would set up a great plot line, a great moment in the movie for them to have conflict, right? Whether it be like a fight scene, an argument, some kind of conflict. And just out of nowhere, Knuckles is like, hey, look, I trust you. We're a team. I trust you. Here's the Chaos Emerald, right? So right away, Knuckles just kind of like backs off and said, hey, I trust you. Here's the Chaos Emerald. Where we could have had a nice fight scene between them, where it's like Knuckles knows Sonic is doing this for the wrong reasons. He knows it. He knows it's the wrong reason. He's like powered by revenge. He's driven by revenge. And instead of Knuckles having that confrontation, either verbally or physically, and having Tails kind of back Knuckles going, hey, yo, you're not supposed to do this. We agreed you weren't going to do this. Knuckles just backs down and goes, okay, here's the Chaos Emerald. But what makes that moment not work is because Knuckles is like, oh, it's guarded by somebody. And then you have this goofball who's the deputy sheriff from the first two films, this goofball playing hockey with the Chaos Emerald and using it for a hockey puck. So that's what I'm talking about. Like, you have these moments of real intense moments of the movie that could have really made this movie something special, right? With Knuckles, confronting Sonic and saying, hey, you can't do this. We agreed you can't do this, just to kind of back off and then move on to a joke where this idiot, like this Chaos Emerald, so valuable, so powerful. And then you got this imbecile playing hockey with it on top of the building. And that's the type of comedy that I'm just like, what are we doing here? Like, we just talked about how important this Chaos Emerald is and the power of it. And then you use it for slapstick comedy to have this guy just kind of like hit this thing around on top of a roof into like what are we doing? And the movie is filled with those moments. There are moments with Maria and Shadow, and we're getting the backstory and finding out why Shadow is the way he is. And the whole dealing with the loss of Maria and what that means to his character. But you don't really get that because we're spending time with Jim Carrey playing two characters doing slapstick dancing and comedy. And it wasn't just the dancing scene. That was horrendous. But there was a lot of moments throughout this movie that were like the dancing scene, if not worse than the dancing scene. If it was just Sonic, Knuckles, and Tails doing their thing and trying to stop Shadow and Robotnik, cool. But they take these stupid, goofy elements and they double down on it. And that's the problem. Like, they do some really good stuff in this movie. Like, the special effects are good. The music is good. The story, if it actually had time to kind of be fleshed out, is good. The fact that they limited the human characters back some is good. These are all positive things. But the problem is that you're shoving Jim Carrey with all these jokes, just letting him kind of go balls to the wall with these stupid, horrendous slapstick moments. And then you take elements that could actually have weight behind them, like the loss of Maria, or the Chaos Emerald, and Sonic being driven by revenge. And you just kind of make it, hey, we're joking about this now. This whole Shadow story in general, I feel like they really, other than flashbacks, we really didn't get a concept of what really happened. Like if you played the video games, it's very dark and depressing stuff. And I feel like we just kind of got images of it, but we never really kind of came to terms of what happened. Why did it happen? What was the purpose of Shadow? Like, what's going on? They hit on it, but they don't dive in on it. It's almost like a free sample. They give you a free sample, like, oh, you taste that, you like it? Guess what? You're not getting the meal. You're not getting the encore. You're not getting the meat and potatoes. You're only getting a free sample of what this story has to offer. And that's where the letdown comes in, because the elements and the structure and the skeleton of what this film could have been is there, but they didn't let it cook. They were too busy with stupid jokes and humor and all this stuff instead of actually letting this movie cook like it should have cooked, like it should have been. Like, Sonic 2, I feel like, is just is so great. Sonic 2 is amazing. Like, Sonic 2 is the video game on the big screen. And until Mario came out, the Super Mario Brothers movie came out, it was my number one favorite comic book, or I keep saying comic book movie, but I mean video game movie. Like, it was the best video game movie ever made, was Sonic 2, until the Super Mario Brothers movie came out. And then you kind of just look at it and go, okay, how are they going to follow this up? And they followed up with the third film, which has a lot of really good stuff in it, but it's overshadowed by all the stupidity that happened. And for some reason, a movie that limits the human characters still finds time to put the worst human character possible in the movie for a scene. And I'm talking, of course, about the sister-in-law and her boyfriend or husband, because they got married in the second movie. You know, they were horrendous in the previous movies. Now, granted, she's only in it for one scene, but, you know, what are we talking about? But it really comes down to Jim Carrey. Jim Carrey was overbearing in this movie. He was horrendous. And when you get to this, the shadow story with Maria, I felt like they didn't let it cook. They didn't really let it kind of sit in with the audience. If you're someone who's not familiar with the game, I don't think you get the context of what really happened, you know? And not only that, you have just moments that you scratch your head going, what are we doing? What are we talking about? Why are we playing hockey with a the Master Emerald? Like, what are we doing? Those are the ones that come to my mind as the most insane, most ludicrous moments within the movie. There's tons of other examples, but overall, it just kind of let me down, man. It really let me down, because this was a franchise that the first movie was very solid. The second one took the first movie and amped it up and made it even better. Then we get to the third movie, which has Shadow introduced, and there's a lot of dark elements into this movie, and I feel like they just kind of just pissed it away. And I felt like they really dropped the ball with what could have been a great third installment to this franchise. And of course, we get the end credit scene, which I thought was really cool. I thought the mid credit scene was really cool. The end credit scene, you guys can just go pee. You can go to the bathroom. I was holding it in, thinking it was gonna be something special. You can literally just get up and leave. Just watch the mid credit scene. I'm not gonna spoil it for if you haven't seen it, but that was cool. That was awesome. I enjoyed that. But if they do a fourth film, they gotta eliminate some of these problems that they're having. You need to tell your story and not be afraid of going and having the different layers to your film. Don't leave it off with just joke after joke after joke. Let those moments of real darkness, those real heavy moments, let them sit in. Let the audience understand the weight of it. There's a through line for this movie where Sonic is where what's his name, Tom or whoever Cyclops character plays, you know, who's basically Sonic's father, where he's like, don't forget what's inside here. You know, never let that disappear. You know, always remember what's good about you inside here. And that was something that's a lesson that Knuckles had to learn after the trauma of what he dealt with, and what Sonic had to go through with wanting revenge and taking the Chaos Emerald and all that stuff. That plot line of remember the goodness inside you. Don't be blinded by revenge and rage. That's a very important message, but it kind of get lost because you have Jim Carrey doing a disco dance number with himself, and everything. It just becomes unbearable. Having two of these guys on screen is just unbearable, guys. Like, I can't even tell you the headache that I have, and I'm just watching this and going, it's like a train wreck. You know, it's like a car accident on the highway. You don't want to look, but you can't. You can't help yourself. It's that bad. And unfortunately, with all that, I just left the theater extremely disappointed with this movie. Like, really, really disappointed. It's not the worst movie of the year. God knows I've seen worse. Venom 3, I'm looking at you. You're like the top dog. I didn't see Craven, thank the Lord. But you know, there's definitely worse movies out there. I'm not saying this movie's horrendous by any means, but when you're comparing it to the first two movies, it's not good. It's very, very, very disappointing. But I could be on an island by myself with that opinion, but that's my thoughts on it, guys. So please do me a favor. If you stuck around, hit the like button. The algorithm is very, very important. If you want to sub, I would appreciate it. If you don't like my comments and you're one of those petty people that unsub because you don't agree with my opinion, then that's unfortunate, because I feel like we need to have an open conversation about things that we like and dislike, and we can disagree and not see eye to eye and still respect someone's opinion. So if you enjoyed the movie, I hope you did, man. Go get your money's worth. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Unfortunately for me, it was like 2 hours of basically just being at the dentist and just being drilled with a root canal. That's what it felt like. But that's just my thoughts on it, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. Until next time, peace out, sauerkraut, ladies and gentlemen.